Biodiversity refers to the variety of plant and animal species present in an area. In recent years, it has been threatened, and looming over us now is what is known as the biodiversity crisis. But what is the evidence for this biodiversity crisis? How bad is the state of the world? To answer these questions, we should start at the beginning and look at what is causing these effects. The main cause for biodiversity losses stems from anthropogenic changes and influences. At its core, humans need food and land to survive, and they do this by clearing areas for housing and creating farms. But as the population increases, so do the number of mouths that have to be fed. Then more wild land needs to be converted. 46% of habitable land in the world is used for agriculture. 1,000 years ago, this was just 4%. In creating this agricultural land, we have fragmented our wild areas into smaller and smaller sections, and transportation links have then fractioned these even more. Habitat fragmentation creates obstacles for many species. A big issue is the isolation of flora and fauna to smaller areas. For creatures that are prone to roaming, having just a fraction of the land they are used to hinders them from accessing all the resources they need. If a creature is brave enough to cross a road to get to the greener grass beyond, there is no guarantee they will get there. With forests, the issue of edge effects comes into play. The more a piece of land is fragmented and chopped into bits, the more edges it will have. This therefore means more buffer zones for flora and fauna inside. These areas are less easy to live in as there is higher visibility, and thus predation and parasitism rates are also higher. Nesting rates of birds are also lower. Some fragments, as can be seen here, can become entirely edge if they are too narrow. Corridors are useful but shouldn't be a replacement for proper habitat. Edges are climatically different as they're often the buffer for inside trees. This makes them more prone to wind and fire. Between 2000 and 2012, 2.3 million square kilometers of forested areas worldwide had been destroyed. To help you visualize this amounts to the combined land area of Austria, Belgium, the Czech Republic, France, Germany, Ireland, Italy, the Netherlands, Poland, Spain, Switzerland, and the UK. Anyway, let's move on to agriculture. That's sure to be better. The way farmland is managed speaks to the way the land around it is affected. For example, and as it should be no surprise to say, our chemical onslaught of pesticides and herbicides is horrific for biodiversity. Farmers have begun to use seeds coated in neonicotinoids in order to avoid spraying crops, hopes that it would lessen the damage of chemicals. However, the neonicotinoids spread to the nectar of the plant, which meant it was dosing up the pollinators who would die before they could help pollinate the crop. Bumblebees who were exposed produced 85% fewer queens. 97% of surrounding wildflowers also had these neonicotinoids, and had higher amounts from the crop. The number of pesticides that were put onto the crops were at 6 parts per billion. The wildflowers were found to have 30 parts per billion, and in some worse spots of rivers and streams, amounts reached 320 parts per billion. 1 nanogram of neonicotinoids impairs a wasp's ability to find a mate to breed, effectively striking it dead whilst it's still alive. The pesticides are found to have impaired the navigational ability of bees, preventing them from getting back to their hives and nests. Fungicides have also been found to cause lethal diarrhea in bumblebees. Insect numbers have frantically decreased. In just 24 years, from 1989 to 2013, insect numbers dropped by 78%. The survey that was taken was in the same location, and they thought that perhaps it was just a bad year. The numbers couldn't have declined that much. Alas, they got similar results when they tried the survey again a year later. In one of the traps in 1989, there were found to be 17,291 hoverflies. In 2013, there were 2,737. This is 15% of the original amount. If you aren't an insect person, you might be breathing a sigh of relief, but when you want to go buy some food at the supermarket, and the fruit sections are empty, it might cause you to think. It's not just what the insects pollinate, they cause a butterfly effect. Lots of birds are insect-loving. Now 4/5 of their food is gone. I have just spoken vaguely about habitat loss and chemical usage, but many more things impact species all across the world. Overfishing, hunting, urbanization, climate change, forest fires, invasive species, pollution, disease, ocean acidification, and GMOs. The reason we feel we need evidence for the biodiversity crisis is because when we walk around in our daily lives, we cannot see what is wrong. Everything seems fine because we do not know what it used to look like. This is called shifting baseline syndrome. What we are used to is a degraded version of what our ancestors were used to. I could go on talking about the causes for the crisis, but the house is already burning. We no longer need a thermometer, we need a fire hose.